This is Beyond the Sidelines, only on 4stateshomepage.com. Sponsored by First Missouri Insurance, where you come first. With your host, Ethan Schmidt.
Well, welcome into another week of Beyond the Sidelines. It's the playoffs, and then we have another Beyond the Sidelines. That means that we have teams still alive.
Yeah, and there were four left.
Four left.
But of course, Joplin now is going to be in the state. These two got potential 2 more steps before they get to state.
Three.
Three.
Jake said he's not the biggest math guy, so that was what happened just then. But yeah, Jake Stansell joining me this week for another look at high school football playoffs, and we're going to start off in Class 6 with Joplin. As we're talking about, they punched their ticket to the state championship. And what a phenomenal game it was in this matchup here. Let's talk a little stats here. Isaiah Davis, 195 yards. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. He also caught an interception. He recovered a fumble. Pretty much the line of the night from me, I felt very creative about this, was that coaches, players, students, teachers, they will be very fearful of Isaiah Davis, and he'll be haunting their dreams for a long time because he absolutely dominated the Jaguars. Yeah,
the Jaguars, all their players are leaving that game afraid to go to sleep that night because they're going to be dreaming of this Z train rolling through their dream. I mean, this guy was just dominant. And we talk every week, who's going to stop him? Yeah. It seems like their team, whatever plans they put together, just maybe it doesn't work, or just Isaiah Davis is just that good.
And he was being heavily relied on, as I mentioned, 5 touchdowns. There's a reason for that. But he was being relied on the entire game just due to the fact that the offense, yes, Blake Tash had 236 yards through the air and a touchdown, but it was just the fact that the running game was working so well that they just had to make sure that the ball kept going to him. And as you said, there was no answer for him, and because of that, he took over. Now, in this upcoming matchup, they're going to have DeSmet. DeSmet beat Ray Peck 37-0. DeSmet 13-0, Joplin 13-0. Coming into this game, November 30th at 3 p.m. It's going to be at Faroe Field up in Columbia. The biggest thing from this one that you're going to see, and very much so for Joplin, for those of you who remember the CBC game last year in the semifinals, you're getting a DeSmet team that's fairly similar. 3 guys that are in the top 50 in the state for Missouri in the top rankings for guys coming out of high school for the 2020 season. Jordan Johnson, a wide receiver who's already verbally committed to Notre Dame. Linnell Carr, an outside linebacker who's number 13th in the state. He's ranked 13th in the state. West Virginia commit, Armand Wallace, a defensive tackle, Missouri State commit. So these are 3 guys that are going to be focal points of that. And again, Jordan Johnson's actually the number 1 player in Missouri right now in the rankings for 2020, but they also have the 2021 top-ranked player as well, and Jacqueline Johnson, who is already committed, or is leaning, he's not committed yet, but he's leaning towards Ohio State, and we all know he's a cornerback, he's a wide receiver, we all know the talent that they're able to recruit at Ohio State and bring in at the corner and receiver position, so this is going to be a huge test for them. For the 2021 season, these are all juniors that are coming up. They have 6 players who are in the top 15 early rankings for the state of Missouri. Number 1, number 4, number 7, number 8, 11, and 13. They run 3 running backs out of the backfield that are all very talented. Now, here's a stat that I looked at. On the season, this trio of running backs, 2,957 yards, entering the state championship game, 44 touchdowns. Well, the number 44 is kind of important because that's how many touchdowns Isaiah Davis single-handedly has for Joplin. So coming into this game, looking at that, it's going to be very much a similar situation when they saw with Christian Brothers. These are some top athletes who are going to some big programs.
Absolutely, a lot of talent. And DeSmet, I think I was talking with somebody, they're saying, how good is the Spartans team? And they were good enough to be featured on ESPN. So if that has anything to say about the level of competition that Joplin is going to have at their hands for the state title game, it's going to be a lot. And I know they've only allowed about 7 points per game, but you keep that in mind, the 7 points per game that they've only given up per game, that average there. But with Isaiah Davis, I mean, he's going to have more than 7 points. He's going to have more than 7 points, and so that's going to be what's going to be interesting. So I know, like I said, we always talk about who's going to stop Isaiah Davis. That train just keeps on rolling, and I don't know how you're going to stop him. I mean, with 46 touchdowns on the season right now, he could easily eclipse 50 after this game.
Yeah, and some other things I saw from DeSmet, if you haven't had time to look at what they bring into this, they have a big physical offensive line. I mentioned that they have 2 guys at least that are in that 2021 class that are ranked in the state. So they have they have a big physical offensive line. That's why they have a trio of running backs that are almost at 3,000 yards in the season, because they have 3 guys who just are able to get through there and make plays happen. A lot with that, as I mentioned, they have those 3 physical running backs. They like to run the misdirection a lot. They do like to run the wildcat. They do have a tall quarterback that has a great arm as well. He just doesn't always have to throw the ball, because what they're going to want it to do at DeSmet is they're going to want to establish the run early. The same thing with Joplin. They're going to want to establish the run early with Isaiah Davis. So I think we're going to see a great matchup in Columbia. This DeSmet team, Joplin's going to have to come in and play the most inspired football that they've played in the entire season against this DeSmet team. I'm excited to see what they bring out. I'm excited to see what DeSmet brings out, because I feel like DeSmet has a chance to kind of overlook Joplin as well, because, you know, they're looking at it, who has Joplin played up to this point, where DeSmet, as you mentioned, an ESPN team. They beat Christian Brothers twice this season. They take on a lot of those big teams out of St. Louis like Francis Howell and other programs like that. So what are they going to be able to bring to the table? And Joplin, I feel like they do have the opportunity to look at this game and say, hey, they're going to look over us. We are the underdogs yet again. Let's do this.
And just one more thing I want to add to that. I know as much of a monster season that Isaiah Davis has had, Blake Tash is having a stellar season of his own. I mean, he's thrown for over 2,500 yards. It was like 29 touchdowns, 79 completion rate, and he's only had 1 interception all season long, and that came in the playoffs. So he's having a fantastic season as well. So I expect him to finish the job here.
Let's move into Class 5. Let's talk a little Carthage football, as they knocked off Glendale in what seemed to be like a 5-hour game, because Glendale threw like 85 passes. They only know how to throw the ball at Glendale. They can't run the ball. They turned the ball over a lot, though. We saw that early on in this game. Let's talk a little numbers. Tyler Mueller, 22 carries, 288 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. Patrick Carlton, 157 rush yards, 3 touchdowns. They didn't have to throw the ball a lot, because literally the run game was going for them early and often. Glendale could not stop the big power running of Carlton, could not slow down the Mule, and it all paid off here as they advanced to the semifinal for a 3rd straight year. They're going to take on Fort Zumwalt North now. They're on the road in this game next Saturday, that game at 3 p.m. So that'll be another trip to O'Fallon for a local team as they go up and take on the Panthers.
Glendale was just overwhelmed. I mean, it's plain and simple. You look at the total amount of offense that Carthage had, 524 yards out of 550 were yards rushed.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was, of course, Tyler Mueller. They fueled the Mule. They heard he was in town, and they got scared because he had 5 touchdowns in that game. It's just incredible. But, yeah, I mean, just plain and simple, Glendale was overwhelmed. Carthage made easy work of them, and that offense is going to be tough to stop, especially in the next game here.
Absolutely, and now in this game, it was Fort Zumwalt North that was the winner of this one, 24-21 over Chaminade. They trailed early on 14-0 in this matchup, but they came back, they pounded back a punt, a mistake on a punt, a high snap, got them down at the 1, so they're able to bring it in, make some things happen there. They have a young man by the name of Cairo Payne who plays quarterback for them. He's fast, but they have fast running backs as well, and what they like to do is they're going to use a lot of moving pieces in their offense to make sure that, you know, a lot of their plays, you know, who's got the ball, where are they going, how are they going to rush. They like to do these kind of a similar situational RPO action. They bring some guys in motion, and then sometimes what they'll do is they'll go with the guy in motion and they'll sweep around on the other side where the motion guy just came from. So this is going to be a tricky offense that I think, you know, Coach Guidey and company are going to really look at. But I'm excited to see what that defense does, because this is going to be another week where the defense has to step up. We saw them step up against the passing game against Glendale. Yeah, 34 points. They all came through the air. I get that. However, this is a team that's not really going to want to go to the air. They're going to want to keep this one on the ground and keep this game in their control, keep that time of possession battle in their favor. So for Carthage, this is going to be one of those defensive battles where those guys up front, Oscar Campa, Alex Martini, are going to have to play very involved. Cale Schrader is going to have a big game because there's big guys who are going to be coming at him. I looked at the difference between, I was at Fort Zumwalt West and looked at Fort Zumwalt North. Fort Zumwalt North looked like a better team to me than Fort Zumwalt West while watching film. So we're going to see what they are able to do, what they're able to bring to the table. For Carthage, though, I like what they were able to do against Glendale, establish that run game early. I think they're going to have to do that as well against the Falcons this week. Against the Falcons. No, they're not. I got lost on it. Bring up my graphic for me, Shay. Who are they? They are the Panthers. That's what it is. So they're going to bring up that run, or they're going to bring that run game against the Panthers, see if the Panthers can stop your Muellers, your Patrick Carltons, and then try and maybe hit them over the top and see if you can expose some people. They did have an interception against Chaminade. It was a lucky bounce, really, is what they got out of it. So the Panthers, not the Falcons, that was last week. I think I looked at Staley and got confused. But that's what we're looking at in Class 5 in the semifinal matchup. And, of course, on the other side, Jackson Indians and the Staley Falcons would be who the winner of this game would get in the finals.
Yeah, I was just going to add on top of that, I mean, third consecutive appearance for Carthage in the semifinals, so very impressive for them, but this is definitely a strong year that they've had, and we've seen on offense time and time again, and I think they're going to rely heavily again on Tyler Mueller and Patrick Carlton in that run game.
Let's go to Class 4 because this is where Jake was this past week as Webb City took on Camdenton, and Jake, you said you were fired up, ready to go.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what a game. What a game. This is the type of game that you want to have when it comes in the playoffs. And I want to start by, you look at last year when these two teams met up. Webb City won that game, but they only won by a margin of a field goal, 3 points.
Right.
And it's a completely different story this time around, although you look at the first half. I mean, the tie got tied 21-21 at a halftime. The quarterback, though, for Camdenton, Paxton, they either ran. I mean, he's been stellar, and Coach Rod even commended him for the season that he's had. He's thrown him for over 7,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and in this game alone, I think he was 70 passes attempted.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why this game almost went till midnight. I mean, it was a long game, but I mean, Coach Rod said at halftime he just really challenged his players because there were a lot of penalties in the first half. They were giving that quarterback a lot of time scrambling in the pocket. And they came out in the second half, looked like a completely different team. I think everyone was in unison as far as Tragan Parker. That was the spark that it was a 41-13 run in the second half, and that interception, 100-yard reception, because Camdenton was threatening there to tie the game up again. Webb City went ahead and went back up by 2 scores. So Webb City, they got the job done in that second half. I mean, just seeing how dangerous they were in that second half. If they play like that moving forward, I don't think any team can touch them.
And they got a team in Ladue. We know this rivalry. In 2018, Ladue won 17-13 at Webb City. But in 2017, Webb City knocked off Ladue 14-0 to win their 14th championship for the program, for the school, in football at least. And Webb City in this game, you mentioned it. It was the run game that really got things going. Terrell Cabala, 13 carries, 188 yards, 3 touchdowns. Deverin had 101 rushing yards. He had a receiving touchdown. Cade Hicks had 100 rushing yards. So this is a very talented offense, and it was one of those games where we finally saw them really get that start going for them. But you have to commend the defense because there was an earlier pick 6 that got called back on one of those penalties you talked about. Cale McAllister took that bad boy to the house. 2 flags were called on that play. We couldn't see it in our angle. I think there was a lot of people that were a little upset at the fact of did it happen, because it was an unsportsmanlike penalty that was called on top of a block to the back, I believe, or a holding, one of the two, that called that back. But then you look later on, and Tragan Parker, the young man there, catching that pick 6, going 103 yards to the house, really igniting this team, because at that point it was only 28-21. So that pick 6 made it 35-21 and really got Webb City to where they knew they could be and where that defense knew they could be. Yeah, they got punched in the mouth early on, but that defense, they are resilient. We've seen it all season long. Any early lead is pretty much gone by the time it was. I mean, even in the Joplin game we were there, Joplin was dominating in that first half. That game ended by 7 points. So that's what we're looking at with this Webb City defense. Now, that Webb City defense, they're going to have to play stellar as well against Ladue this week. Ladue's coming off a 47-0 victory over Liberty. Like I said, they were up 28-0 after the first quarter. They held Liberty to just 4 total first downs the entire game. But Liberty did catch 2 interceptions. Now, here's the thing. Webb City, they're a team that likes to capitalize on mistakes. If they get the opportunity to make those mistakes, they're going to capitalize, whether it's the defense, which we've seen, or that offensive running game. Again, they're going to want to establish the run. That's Webb City football. We know that. We know how they do things. This game, though, I liked, from what I saw from Ladue, they have a quarterback that can just buy time. He likes to buy time. He's not going to be one of those guys who's going to try and step up and run like Paxton did at those times where he tried to step up and make plays and extend plays. He's going to extend plays side to side. He's going to be one of those quarterbacks that likes to stay in the pocket. and look deep downfield because he's got those fast receivers that will get open deep downfield. For me, Webb City, it's going to be generating as much pressure as they possibly can, keeping him contained. I have to give a shout out to a guy by the name of Sergio Perez from Webb City because he did that this past week on a quarterback that liked to scramble. He came up, he stopped those runs, he made sure that they weren't huge gains against this defense because Webb was only rushing 3 and they were spying 1 linebacker. So that's what we're going to have to see a little bit, I think, this week as well. They're going to have to generate pressure up front as much as possible, keep that quarterback from extending the plays, and they're going to have to wrap up against these guys because these guys are big physical guys. They get a chance to get these guys. It's not going to be one guy that's just going to be able to bring them down. You're going to have to bring those jerseys to the ball. You're going to have to bring as many hats as you can to the ball and just bring these guys down because they are shifty, they're elusive, they're going to make you miss on these plays. And I think for Webb City, I think they have the defense to do it. And I think this year, because last year, Durant Henderson and Devin Weathers were down, they were running probably their 3rd and 4th string guys that were trying to make plays happen. So for this year's Webb City team, you have a healthy Terrell Kabbalah, you have a healthy Devin Weathers in the backfield. Kate Hicks is looking good. We know Eli Goddard can come in and sling the ball as well. The receivers are starting to catch well. I'm excited to see this Webb City team. We've talked about redemption. We've talked about revenge tours for everybody else this season. Webb City doesn't really have many people they have to do revenge against, but Ladue is the team that they want revenge against.
Yeah, we talk a lot about Carthage and the amount of how good they are at rushing the ball. I mean, Webb City had 500 yards rush, and a lot of that was part to do the names you just mentioned, Devin Weathers, Terrell Kabbalah, and Kate Hicks, who had over 100 yards each. And we've talked about it all season long with Webb City. The story for them has been the offense has complemented the defense. The defense has been scary good all season long, and they've been a sound and well-built team all season long. They really haven't faltered really much at all season long. So, I mean, even come the playoffs, they've been such a strong team. And defensively, we saw that against Camdenton. Might have, hit a bump in the road in that first half. That's a lot of credit due to Camdenton's quarterback. He's a baller. And Webb City held it down. The defense was thriving, and I expect him to do the same this next game.
Let's go into Class 3 now. We'll talk Cassville. This was the surprise to me. I didn't think Cassville was going to beat Blair Oaks. I'll be the first one to admit it to you guys. I watched Blair Oaks. I thought they looked really good. However, Cassville just knocked Blair Oaks in the mouth early and often.
That's
won
a
this
freshman
game
quarterback there.
35-28. Freshman quarterback against a senior quarterback. We see what happens. Bowen Preddy, a big night for him. 23 carries, 219 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had a kick return touchdown that really set the momentum for him. Zach Kanan, 19 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Cassville, like I said, it's surprising to me because I did not think Cassville was going to win this game. I saw Blair Oaks. I watched everything that they were bringing into it. And Cassville, just to me, after having to come back against a team like Seneca, I didn't know if they were going to be able to do it against a team like Blair Oaks, but they did it. They're on to the semifinal game. They're going to host Trinity Catholic on Saturday at 1 p.m. down in Cassville. Man, what a big win for Cassville, an exciting win for the Wildcats as well. This Trinity Catholic team they're going to take on, though, they won their game 26-0 over Lutheran St. Charles. They have a 9-3 record coming to this game, but their 3 losses are against Lutheran North, who, if you guys remember Lutheran North Lamar 2 seasons ago, that was a crazy intense game that finished 7-6. Literally a missed field goal or missed extra point try is what gave Lamar the victory, and it came in the 4th quarter. So that was a team that's undefeated this season. I believe they're on course to win the Class 2 championship at this point. I don't see anybody stopping them. On top of that, they lost to East St. Louis out of Illinois, who's undefeated in Illinois, who's a very talented team, and they lost to St. Louis University, who's a Class 6 school. So they're playing 3 classes up and have a loss against them. This is one of those teams I mentioned, teams that had players who are being heavily recruited. They have 6 guys from the 2020 class who have all signed Division I, 2 guys to Illinois, a guy to Mizzou, Toledo, Miami of Ohio, and Charlotte. So these are guys who have very talented players. Cassville is going to have to kind of have that mentality of, we're an underdog, but we can play in this game.
And it goes back a couple weeks ago, and I guess of course it still applies now. Like head coach Lance Parnell, he always said, fighting for that one more week. Right. And here at Cassville, they took down the defending Class 2 state champs from a year ago, Blair Oaks, and now they're going to host the defending Class 3 state champs in Trinity Catholic. So, it's exciting for Cassville, and in that game against Blair Oaks, they gave up that early score there, and then they didn't trail after that. They quickly tied the game up and led the rest of the game, so Cassville made quick work of them. I mean, behind Bo and Preddy, like you said.
Right.
So it's going to be exciting to see what they can do against Trinity Catholic, but definitely a very good Cassville team right now.
And Cassville, got to give them a shout out for this because Mount Vernon's been the team that's always been kind of that team that's advanced. Cassville keeping that tradition with Class 3 District 6 alive by advancing to the state semifinals. So they're keeping someone from our area still in there in Class 3. We'll see how they do against Trinity Catholic. They'll have to make the trip to Cassville. Home cooking for Cassville at this point. They got home field advantage, so we'll see what happens. But for another week of Beyond the Sidelines, we're through. We're getting ready for a state championship game for Joplin, some state semifinal games for Carthage, Webb, and Cassville. So there's a possibility we have one more show with these guys who are remaining here. We're hoping so, at least.
Yeah, I hope so. We hope so. It's going to be fun to see. I mean, a lot of great teams left, or these great teams left here.
Right.
But the opponents that they're playing, it's going to be fun to see how they match up.
Absolutely, get a chance to beat up on some of those guys from the other side of the state. So for another week of Beyond the Sidelines, I'm Ethan Schmidt. He's Jake Stansell. We hope you guys enjoyed, and remember, you can catch this every week on 4stateshomepage.com.
This is Beyond the Sidelines, only on 4stateshomepage.com. Sponsored by First Missouri Insurance, where you come first. With your host, Ethan Schmidt.